This week I learned that people who do podcasting only, they got it much easier than YouTubers. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we're continuing to roll through the month of March here. Lots of fun things to talk about this week, so we're just going to hop right into it, guys. We're going to begin with what am I reading, and this might be the part where some of you flip some tables and turn this show off because, guys, I'm in a holding pattern with the realm of the Elderlings. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know that I'm doing one of these per month now, and Golden Fool was kind of up in the air for me. I said, I think when I got to the end of this book, it would be how I determine where I stand on the Tawny Man trilogy as a whole. Well, guys, I'm past the halfway point, and I had to put the book down because nothing was happening. And look, I know that this is like a common thing with Robin Hobb. And if you have any kind of criticism like that, hobnobbers will come after you. And they'll be like, well, that's not why I read Robin Hobb. I mean, that's great. That's great. I'm not ever taking away from her writing style or her talent or anything like that. And a lot of people have assumed with this book that it is a particular character that bothers me. No, not at all. That character isn't bothering me at all. The fact that it's about Fitz taking care of that character being the driving plot of this book, 426 pages in, that is still the primary plot. That's where it got a little rough for me. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to take a break because if I kind of keep forcing this and it doesn't turn around, because everybody keeps saying, oh yeah, about the 40% book that takes off. Well, I think I'm at like 55% and it still hasn't took off. So I was just thinking maybe I should take a break. And then I'm still going to finish it this month. I just said I'm not going to, force myself to finish it right now. There are other things that I can read to kind of, if I feel like I'm having like a pacing issue or something like that, I can kind of work through it. But with this, guys, I do have to say, if you count where the after the climax of Fool's Errand to where I'm at in Fool's Fate, that stretch is now slower than the part of Assassin's Quest that I did not like. And again, I think she's wonderful at slice of life and things like that. And again, it isn't anything to the way she writes that I'm not liking. I'm just not really wrapped up or invested in the story that she's telling right now. And that's very, 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 very discouraging. It really is, because I know I've got the Rainwild books coming up after this. And those were even hobnobbers absolutely love that, that love the realm of the Elderlings. They even have problems with those books. So I'm a little bit alarmed, not going to lie, but I'm not quitting or anything like that. I know that anytime, like I said, I mention any criticism about a Hobb book, people are like, well, I'm sorry you're quitting. I never said that. I never said, or I'm sorry it isn't working for you. Look, there are stretches where, yeah, it's not working for me, but I'm never saying I'm giving up on the series. I'm just taking a quick break because this book is not working for me. I think in the last 1,000 pages, the only thing that has happened of significance is a couple of characters got into a fist fight. And I'm like, that's just too long. That's too long of a stretch for there to be no plot development. I'm fine with slice of life, but I got to have some plot. You got to give me something. You got to give me a little bit of plot. And I don't feel like this book has it yet. And that's wild. Like I said, these books don't need to be this long for the story that she's telling. And that was my criticism of Assassin's Quest. And I'm afraid that that's where this one's going to fall for me. Which is crazy, because Live Ship and Fool's Errand, that was 4 books in a row that I just thought were home runs, And whereas Golden Fool was like, oh, well, we'll see. We'll see. It feels like a transition book. And now this one, we're past the halfway point. I'm like, my gosh. So there we are. So what did I do to kind of counter that? Well, I picked up another book with the word fool in it. And that was book number 2 in the last word of Mike Shackle. That's Fool's Hope. Thank you, Mike, for sending me a copy of this, because I was reading it on digital, and he surprised me by actually sending me a copy with some nice drawings and stuff. I can go ahead and show you. I have this in I'm going to be showing this on the book haul, but he actually signed it, and he drew a picture of some of the main characters and stuff like that for me, because Mike's an awesome guy. But this book is very much like the first one. If you like the first one, I don't see any reason why you're not going to like this one. He adds I've had 3 new POV characters so far, and they're not what I was expecting, like at all. So it doesn't ever feel like he's expanding the POV roster just to do it. He's giving you very, very different points of view from different portions of this cast, and I like that a lot. But yeah, it's just as messed up. I'm kind of flying through it, about 40% through that one already. And I imagine I'll be finishing that up sometime this week, because if you know anything about these books, they read rather quickly. They read really quick because there is a lot going on, and I never really feel like it drags at all. So again, I think that's a series that It's tempting for me to just say screw what I've got planned and just go ahead and pick up the last book after after this one. And I'll talk about another reason why that's happening to me here when I get into what am I going to read. But I'm having a great time in that universe, and it has been a nice change of pace for what I wasn't liking about Fool's Fate. This has obviously sped things up a little bit. And I also want to kind of point out, guys, that reading Robin Hobb immediately after Pierce Brown, that might be playing into it a little bit, because that is a humongous change of pace. But again, I don't want to kind of harp on that too much. But guys, did continue with Battle Labyrinth. We are almost done. My kid and I, we are rolling through the end of it. I think we're about 3/4 through the book now. We're back to reading like every single night, a couple chapters at a time. And yeah, he's loving it. I think this might... We were kind of trying to rank them last night. I think this is my favorite one so far. He's still saying he thinks Sea of Monsters might be his favorite, which I think is kind of funny, because I think amongst Percy Jackson fans, that seems to be the one that they say is like their least favorite. But I think it's just he really liked the dynamic between Percy and Tyson in that one. So this one I like, because we got like the whole band back together. No one feels sidelined. We got the whole group together. And we're just really diving deep into Daedalus and the Labyrinth and Crete and all that stuff. I think that stuff's just so cool. And us getting to talk about all these things after, again, is why this series has just been a fun ride for the two of us. I'm actually going to be sad when we finish Last Olympian, probably next month. I imagine we'd finish sometime in April. So we kind of go through bursts. You know, we'll read every single night, and then we won't read for like a week. Just kind of what kind of mood he's in. But he's really, really liking this one, so I think we'll continue to roll through that. How about some what am I going to read, guys? Well, obviously what I listed above. I've still got a long way to go in both of those books. So I'm going to be reading the 2 full books. And if I somehow get through that, guys, it's time to start the reread, which is this big monster. You heard of this one? It's called A Storm of Swords. It is my favorite single fantasy book of all time. And this book is monstrous, guys. And I'm seeing so many people that are reading for the first time right now just blown away by just how many plot twists there are. Guys, you remember how everyone said, I think A Game of Thrones was the best in season 3 and 4. Do you know why? Because it was this book. That's why. Because this is, like I said, the greatest fantasy book of all time, in my opinion. And I cannot wait to revisit it, because it's been far too long. Now, what I was kind of talking about earlier, what I would say I was tempted to say screw my rereads, is you get wrapped up in read-alongs or schedules and things like that, and you start to feel like every single month you look at your TBR and you're like, oh, great, 3 of my slots are already taken up by something I'm going to read along with. And you know what? That's my own fault. You know, I wanted to do this Red Rising read-along. I'm not struggling with this. I have no problems doing the Red Rising read-along. I'm loving that read-along. I'm having a great time revisiting those books. I'm going to continue to be doing the Realm of the Eldlings books with Philip. So that's nothing that I'm saying that I'm upset about. I'm just saying I feel like sometimes I get tied into that stuff, and it makes it hard to do mood reads. And again, this is my own problem. I'm not blaming anybody but myself for this. But, you know, there are occasions where something comes up. Like I read The Fall by Ryan Cahill last month, and I loved it. And I wanted nothing more than to say, screw what I've got planned. I'm going to start that series. But if you know anything about those Ryan Cahill books, they're beefy. They're big, beefy books. So it's hard for me not to just say, you know what? Screw what I've already talked about doing. Screw my whole schedule. I'm just going to read that Mike Shackle book, and then I'm going to read book 3 after I finish it. Then I'm just going to start these Ryan Cahill books. Everything else be damned. But this is why I keep a schedule, guys, because I can't fly off the rails like that. And I know a lot of people right now are saying, Mike, just read what you want to read. Look, I work in finance. I work in data analysis. I work in risk analysis. We do everything by a schedule. And we do that to keep things from getting chaotic. So that's why I'm doing it that way. But it is really hard for me sometimes not to say, screw everything I already told my viewers that I was going to do. You know, because I don't want to tell you guys, hey, here's my TBR plans, and then say screw it. Because there's a lot of people who do read along with me. There's a lot of people, we may not have like an official read along going. But when I say, hey, I'm going to read this, and this month, they read those things so they can talk to me about them or hear me talk about them. So that's why I kind of stick to that schedule. So I understand, like I said, a lot of people were saying, you know, who are you blaming for this? Just me. I'm just blaming me. But again, I'm going to stick to my schedule for now, even though it is very, very hard. But, you know, these are things that are going to happen all of the time. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get to that Stephen King reread this month because this book right here is so heavy. So with the Into the Multiverse stuff and the Stephen King rereads, that's always stuff that can kind of be pushed to the next month if things like that happen. I'm starting to get that point where I'm picking up just these big, gigantic 800-page books again. And, you know, that makes running through more than like 3 or 4 books a month really hard when you do eyes-only reading, guys. Let's talk about this week on the channel. I did my February 2023 book haul. Again, I don't need you probably don't need me to tell you again why I do book hauls. I think they're a lot of fun. I love talking about new books that I've gotten. I love saying thank you to people who have sent me wonderful stuff, and I love showing them to people who are interested in maybe picking up that edition, and they want to know, hey, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Does the spines match? All those things. That's why I love to do that. But yeah, that's always a lot of fun. And then I had something that was just kind of an off-the-cuff thing. I've had a lot of people over the last 2 years say, have you ever considered making a podcasted version of your show? And I said no, because podcasting it's just such a pain in the ass. It's nothing else that I ever want to just, have to worry about keeping up with. And then I started looking into it and I was like, wow, this is what I started in. I started in podcasting, guys. And it is so much easier than it used to be. It literally now is, there's free hosting sites and things like that where all you do is upload it there. You just add your RSS to everything else and they do it all for you. Now look, iTunes is still a little hard with the setup, of course. But again, iTunes is still the dominant market when it comes to podcasting. Spotify's catching up, but iTunes is still the dominant, because at least going by my analytics just after I started doing this, iTunes is still the dominant market there. But again, it was so much easier. I said, you know what? I'm going to do that for a lot of these older things. A lot of these older things that have no shelf life anymore, like some of these long discussions I have where I've had like 3 views in the last 2 years. Yeah, I'll go ahead and migrate those over to podcast format. They can find new life there and kind of move them off of the channel. Now, I've had a lot of people in that little introduction that I did, just talking about why I was making that, say, oh, well, I have no interest in this. But look, if you want to watch just the YouTube channel only, that's still my preferred way for you to do this. This is always going to be something that requires visuals, because I'm going to talk to things. I want to be able to look at you in the eye while I talk to you and things like that. So it's never meant to be like a replacement. Nothing's going to change for you. Nothing is changing on the channel. And if you're someone who wants to do just podcast, it's not going to be quite what you're thinking. I'm not going to be taking everything that's brand new and uploading it to podcast the same day. No, not at all. What that is more is migrating some things over there that have kind of run out of shelf life. And a lot of that time is the long form discussions, the 2-3 hour videos that I would do, the author interviews, things like that. That's the stuff mainly I'm putting over into podcast format because I think those work better, honestly, on a podcast format. Like I just moved all of the old Throne Zones episodes over there because those are fun, like when the show is happening and you're doing like the week to week or the episode reaction. After that, crickets. No one's watching that anymore. So I didn't feel bad moving that clutter off of the channel. So that's just something that I just kind of wanted to do. It's never meant to be a YouTube replacement, and it's nothing that requires any kind of dedication from you guys. There's nothing extra over there that you're not getting here. So I want people to understand that. It's never me saying, hey, I'm going to be doing supplementary material over there, and you have to subscribe to the podcast too. I'm not Disney Plus, guys. I'm not the MCU. I'm not selling you. You got to get all these different things to consume all my content. You won't be getting anything on the podcast that you don't get here. So I think you're safe there. But again, if you are wanting to be a podcast-only listener, you'll just have to wait, because I'm going to move some reviews and stuff like that over there, but not until they kind of wear out their shelf life here. This is still my primary form of trying to get things viewed and engagement and things like that. This is always going to be a visual thing. So that's why I am doing that decision. But again, if you guys do want to do that, I have links now where you can get to iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. We're everywhere now. You can find the show there. And if you want to find some of those old episodes, which are pretty cool, I've put some stuff on there that I haven't seen any kind of movement on in a long time, and there's already a couple hundred listens on some of those. And I think I saw something from where I'm hosting it now, where they told me that I've already hit the top 50 on Spotify in arts podcasts. So that's a lot of fun. For me, it's kind of fun. Go back to my roots a little bit with podcasting, but again, this is always going to be the preferred way to do things. So again, it doesn't change anything for you. And if you're going to do that, only that, I still got to tell you guys, you got to be patient, because it'll be a while before some brand new stuff heads over to the podcast. Now that I've talked about that extremely for too long, as for the rest of the week on the channel, I did do my review for Tress of the Emerald Sea, the new Brandon Sanderson book, and I had a great time talking about that. It was our first Cosme review in, gosh, a couple of years. I think Rhythm of War was the last one that I did, and it was a lot of fun talking about that book. Why I said that I had the most fun in the Cosme I've had in a while, because I felt like Stormlight and Mistborn, they've all kind of gotten so serious, which I appreciate. But I just wasn't having like a blast reading them anymore like I used to. And this just kind of reminded me, hey, I like good, fun, swashbuckling adventures sometimes. And Brandon Sanderson is still one of the GOATs at it. He really is still great at that. And I love that he's just able to make you feel whisked away to another world, and everything just feels so magical in his books. And he's still got it, guys. I had a good time with that. It is a very YA book, but again, if you don't find that a problem, I think that you'll have a great time with it. And I enjoyed talking about it. I did one short this week, talking about Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. And what that was is the show Shadow and Bone is coming back. Now, me and some of my patrons, we watched that together on the Discord, and we were planning to just kind of dunk on it. And then we ended up actually really enjoying it. But what most of us enjoyed was the Six of Crows characters. Now, I've read Shadow and Bone, the first 2 books, and yeah, big surprise, it wasn't for me. But my question in that short was, I really like the Six of Crows characters. Are those books any better, or is it kind of more of the same? And kind of look for feedback on that. Most of the feedback I've gotten is like, yes, it's kind of a hinge between YA and adult fantasy. Very much in a steampunk kind of fantasy setting with a heist going on with flashbacks. And I was like, that sounds cool. So really, that's just kind of all I wanted to know, is if I'm enjoying those Six of Crows characters on the show, do they think that I'll like the books if I did not care for the Shadow and Bone books, which were mostly just because, look, I understand Lee Bardugo's now, I'm not the target audience for that. I get that. So really, that's just kind of what I was asking there. So it was a little more feedback than I got on my YA series I'm interested in. Just kind of want a little more feedback on the Six of Crows, and I got a lot. Thank you very much for doing that. As for some next week plans, guys, I do got a couple things waiting in the queue. Got some live streams coming up, and so I hope you guys will be a part of that. Now, this one's kind of iffy. We're still trying to work out some scheduling, had some last minute things. It's either this Friday, St. Patty's, the 17th. It's either going to be the next panel of the Eldlings about live ship traders, or it's going to be a new episode of Throne Zone where me, Scott, and Madison are going to talk about spoilers for the book A Game of Thrones. We thought that'd be a good holdover until House of Dragon comes back. And I have just done recently those reviews for A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings. So we said, hey, I'd love to do some spoiler talks about those. And no one's brains that I want to pick more than those two, because we basically just have instant messages talking about all of our Game of Thrones stuff to each other. So we say, hey, why don't we get some of that on film? As for the live ship one, it's just one of our guests is having a trouble, and I'm like, look, I got no problems waiting for you, man. That was never a time sensitive thing, but it's kind of up to him. It's kind of up to him if we do that on Friday night or not. So I'll let you know, guys, sometime this week which it's going to be. We'll be doing for sure, though, a new Saturday Night Nights, and this is going to kind of be what I'm calling the early edition, because my guests are in different places. I got one guest that's in the UK, I've got one guest that's in Spain, and the other one in the Philippines. So trying to work out the schedules there has been really, really rough. But we're going to be doing like about 8 a.m. my time, and because it'll be much, much later where they are at. That's going to be Issa from Fun Fantasy Books. That's going to be Petrick. You guys don't need me to introduce really Petrick. And of course, Library of a Viking. Those are the three that I'm going to have on Saturday Nights this time, and I'm very, very excited because it's the first time that Petrick and I are actually going to be collabing on the channel. I'm very, very excited to talk to a guy who's obviously had a great influence over what I've read the last few years, and that should be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will pick up a coffee and join me early for the early morning edition of Saturday Night. It's going to be Saturday morning nights, I think. It'll be fun. I can't wait. Might do a rapid review for Untethered Sky. I don't think I've got enough really to talk about to do a full review for this. So I think a nice rapid review, I can kind of tell you, if I think that you'll like this novella by Fonda Lee or not. And I do have a new Friday Night Lights coming tonight, guys. Tonight, as in March the 10th, Friday night. Over on Mike's Media Reviews, I'll be talking to Tony Polanco. If you don't know who that is, Tony is a writer for PC Mag and Tom's Guide. Really was instrumental in being one of the people who actually influenced me to switch to PC gaming. And we've actually been talking on Twitter for a long time, and we seem to have a lot of things in common. So I said, hey, let's go over there and shoot the shit, see what happens. And the thing about that is, Tony is very, very opinionated, and he's going to let you know what he thinks with no buffer. So anything can happen. So what I'll say with that is I think giving Tony a live microphone is always dangerous, but I'm very, very excited to talk to him and see what we talk about over there. So some of the topics might get a little spicy, guys, so you guys look out. But Tony, great dude. I can't wait to talk to him because we both love video games. We say the same kind of metal music and things like that. We're both of the similar age, so I think there'll be lots of fun things to talk about over there with video games and music and movies and all that stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of that, before I go, I got to kind of do some TV and movie talk really, really quick. They did put out a trailer for Seven Kings Must Die. That's the new Last Kingdom kind of, I guess you say the wrap-up, because the Last Kingdom, they were doing 2 books per season, and they finished season 5. That's 10, and there's 13 books in that series. So I don't necessarily know. Look, I do know that the 10th book was the Flame Bearer and that was a lot of those topics were kind of closed off in the show. So I don't know that necessarily that this movie is going to be the last 3 books, kind of like a combination of those or what, but I do know that the showrunner or the person who's making this movie, Seven Kings Must Die, has said that elements from those will be in this. So I'm pretty sure it's not necessarily going to be like a streamlined version of those 3 books, but you will see some things from those books, I think. As we say goodbye to Uhtred, son of Uhtred, and its trailer looks awesome. The trailer just looks kick-ass. I can't wait. Another trailer for Silo on Apple TV. Now, Silo is those books by Hugh Howey. I have that set. It was one that Moyd actually recommended to me a lot. I read the first one. I thought it was fine. It was just bad timing for me. I didn't really have room in my schedule. But it's one of those that kind of like Shadow and Bone, where I feel like the adaptation is going to be better than the book is. And it sounds really weird to say when I've only read one of them, so I can't completely say. But I just feel like Apple TV is just making quality content, quality over quantity with them. And the trailer looks good, some big star power attached to that. And check out that trailer if you guys haven't, because I think that's going to be really, really great. Before I go, I kind of want to talk about these Scream sequels. And now, you guys, by now, everyone knows Scream. It's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, back in my day. Look, the first one came out, 30 years ago almost now? What was so great about Scream when it came out is it was meta before being meta was cool, in that it called out the rules in a horror movie. And that's because Wes Craven was just a genius. I mean, that guy was one of the ones who really crafted a lot of those rules with Nightmare on Elm Street. And so I thought it was a really, really smart series. It really was. The first one was great. The second one somehow I thought was even better. And then the third one was absolute garbage. It was just a dumpster fire. Didn't like it. So when they brought these back, I think 2011 or 12, they put out Scream 4. I didn't even watch it. I was like, I feel like that time's passed. And it felt like it kind of got mixed reviews, but over time I feel like people have kind of got more into it. Then I think last year they put out Scream 5, which they just called Scream, which isn't confusing at all. And everybody really seemed to like it, like a lot. I mean, and what I mean by that is like people that I trust, like Jaime over at the horror show, people like that really, I trust their horror opinions. Really, really liked it. And now the new one's coming out, Scream 6, I think it's called. Who knows? They might just be putting the year next to it now. And people are really, really high on it as well. So I was starting to think, maybe I should give these Scream sequels a try and then just accept that maybe Scream 3 was just a bad one. You know, I mean, I feel like they've got most of the legacy characters that are still alive coming back for all these. I think 6 is the first one without Nev in it. But, you know, it's got the It Girl. The new It Girl is Jenna Ortega. After Wednesday, I see her like everywhere now. So I know that she's in it. But I don't know very much about where the sequels are right now. So I was thinking maybe I would just pick up those sequels and check them out. And then my wife said, hey, how about for Halloween this year for our Fright Fest? Why don't we just roll through all of them again? Because I could watch. I was like, that sounds great because I haven't watched 1 and 2 in a long time. But God, does that mean I got to watch 3 again? But there we are. I'd love feedback from you guys if you think the Scream movies are still quality, because it seems like a lot of people really did like 5 a lot. And the people who have seen 6 already, which I think comes out today or last night, there was previews all week. They seem to really, really be high on it. So I'm excited. If there's a great horror franchise still rolling, that's excellent. I love that. And again, like I said, I always felt like that movie was just kind of just sexy and smart with the way that it really did play with the rules of horror movies. And if they can find a way still to work that in, I'll be actually quite impressed if they're able to do that in a 6th installment. So we shall see, guys. So why don't you go ahead and drop in the comments. Let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you are playing. I hope you will join me over on Mike's Media Reviews tonight when we go live with Tony and I, because it should be a lot of fun. And I love reading you guys' responses and questions live on the air. It's a lot of fun. So hit me there, guys, and I will talk to you then.